Welcome to Easy Anatomy. I will talk to you about intercostal arteries. Intercostal arteries. We finish intercostal muscles and nerves. Now we go to intercostal arteries and veins. So, first, how many intercostal spaces anteriorly? The answer is we have only 9 spaces. Why we have 9 spaces anteriorly? Because rib number 11 and 12 are floating, so they don't reach anteriorly. That's why we don't have 11 space anterior, but we have 11 spaces posterior. So, and 11 spaces posteriorly. That's why we have 9 intercostal arteries anteriorly, and 11 intercostal arteries plus 1 subcostal posteriorly. Okay? So what is the origin of the anterior and the posterior intercostal arteries? So here is the vertebra posteriorly. So let us talk about the origin of intercostal arteries. Here is the vertebra posteriorly, and the anterior here is the sternum. So posteriorly, the major source is descending thoracic vertebra. Anteriorly, the major source is internal thoracic artery. So from behind, you have descending aorta. From anterior, you have internal thoracic artery. This one gave posterior intercostal artery. Okay, until it reach to the level of the costal cartilage, and you will see that the internal thoracic artery send two anterior intercostal arteries. Okay, let us say that this is the rib. Here is the rib. Okay, and the anterior here, rib contain with the costal cartilage, correct? So this is the costal cartilage, and this is the rib. So between ribs you have posterior intercostal arteries. Between costal cartilage you have anterior intercostal arteries. Okay, posterior intercostal artery only one, but send this one, which is collateral branch. So you will see that the main artery anastomose one with one, and the collateral anastomose the other one. So this is the posterior intercostal artery. This is its collateral branch. This is superior and inferior anterior intercostal arteries. This is how it look like in each intercostal space. So in each intercostal space, you have between ribs, you have the posterior intercostal artery and its collateral branch, and then anteriorly you have 2 anterior intercostal arteries coming from the internal thoracic. So this is the organization. Let us go into more detail. So now we start with anterior arteries. Anterior arteries. The anterior intercostal artery. Here is the sternum. Okay. Subclavian artery, which is located in the root of the neck, is going to send this this internal thoracic artery. The internal thoracic artery descend behind costal cartilage from 1 up to number 6. This is first intercostal artery, first costal cartilage, and this is 6 costal cartilage. This is 6 space. 6 space. Okay? This is 7 costal cartilage. So the artery here in the 6 space divide into 2 terminal branches. The one lateral is called musculophrenic artery, and that one is called superior epigastric artery. Okay, so again, this is subclavian artery. First part exactly send the internal thoracic artery, a straight artery, internal thoracic artery. Then internal thoracic artery descend behind the costal cartilage from 1 to 6. In the 6 space, divide into 2 terminal branches, musculophrenic and superior epigastric. And in each space here, this is number 2, costal cartilage, number 3, 4, 5, and 6 is in 6 space here. So in each space is going to send 2 arteries, 2 anterior intercostal artery. Okay? 2 anterior intercostal arteries. So 2 arteries in each anterior intercostal space. Okay, and those 2 arteries are going to anastomose with the posterior intercostal arteries, which are coming from behind. You will see that this is the posterior anastomose with the upper one, and its collateral branch anastomose with the lower one. So this posterior intercostal artery, and this is the collateral branch of posterior intercostal artery. Okay, so the interosseous space contain posterior and its collateral branch. The interchondral space, which is located between costal cartilage, contains 2 anterior intercostal arteries. So we said that we have 9 spaces. So we stopped here at this is number 6. So starting from number 7, we have the anterior intercostal arteries coming from the musculophrenic. So this is the musculophrenic, which will send the number 7 artery, number 8, number 9. So those 3 anterior intercostal arteries are coming from where? From musculophrenic. From the musculophrenic. So in summary, the anterior arteries from 1 to 6 coming directly from internal thoracic, from 7 to 9 from musculophrenic. Okay, what happened to this superior epigastric? Superior epigastric artery will descend down until the level of the umbilicus inside the rectus sheath, and is going to anastomose with another one is called the inferior epigastric artery, which is coming from the inferior epigastric artery, which is coming from the continuation of the aorta down there from the iliac arteries, and is called the inferior epigastric. So you have superior epigastric and the inferior epigastric. They anastomose together at the level of the umbilicus inside rectus sheath. Inside rectus sheath. Where is this coming from? From the external iliac artery, which is a branch from the aorta. External iliac artery. This one coming from where? From the internal thoracic. And this tell you the extensive anastomosis in the thoracoabdominal wall. Thoracoabdominal wall, we have anastomosis between arteries coming from subclavian, arteries coming from external iliac. So this is very important. Where exactly this anastomosis? At the level of the umbilicus inside the rectus sheath. Inside the rectus sheath. Okay. Musculophrenic, from the name phrenic, is going to diaphragm and the muscle of the abdominal wall. The abdominal wall muscle and the diaphragm. Okay. So we're done with the anterior. How about the posterior? The posterior intercostal arteries, as I mentioned, mainly coming from thoracic aorta. Okay, here is the posterior intercostal arteries coming from where? From the thoracic aorta, mainly. But let us see exactly where they come from. So here is the vertebra, because just located or starting from behind. Okay, and here is the subclavian artery. Second part of subclavian artery is going to send superior intercostal artery, superior intercostal artery. Okay, and superior intercostal artery will send number 1 and the number 2 posterior intercostal arteries. First and second posterior intercostal artery. So this is subclavian. Then you have descending aorta, which descend next to the vertebral column, start to send posterior intercostal arteries from number 3 down to number 11 plus subcostal. So this is the source of the posterior intercostal arteries. This is descending aorta. This is superior intercostal artery. So number 1 and 2 coming from where? From superior intercostal artery, which is a branch from subclavian. Number 3 to 11 plus subcostal coming from where? From descending aorta. And keep in mind that each of them send collateral. Each of them send collateral to the lower part of the space, of the intercostal space, and the collateral go and anastomose with one of the two anterior intercostal artery in the anterior space. Okay, these arteries extend between the bony part of the rib. Then at the costochondral junction, they are going to meet with the anterior intercostal arteries, which are branches from internal thoracic. Keep in mind again, so this thoracic wall supplied in general blood, summary of blood supply of thoracic wall. First one, anteriorly, internal thoracic artery. Posteriorly, descending aorta and superior intercostal artery. Then from outside you will see branches coming from axillary artery. Those branches, one of them called superior thoracic and the lateral thoracic. thoracic. Those are branches from axillary artery. And the axillary artery is a continuation of subclavian. So subclavian will continue in the axilla as axillary, which also contribute through two branches, superior thoracic and lateral thoracic. All of them anastomosing together. That's why if there is any obstruction in one of them, can be compensated by others. Okay. Now let us go to venous drainage of the thoracic wall. Venous drainage of thoracic wall. Of thoracic wall. Similar, we're gonna talk about anterior and posterior. We are talking similar to the arteries. We have anterior space and the posterior intercostal space. The posterior space between ribs, the anterior between costal cartilages. Okay, we have 9, you have 11. 9 and this is 11. Okay. Here you will see next to the sternum, similar to the arteries. Here is the artery, internal thoracic artery. Which is split into musculophrenic and superior epigastric. Those are surrounded by veins. We call them vena comitans. You see? And this one extend as vena comitans. It means two veins around the artery until maybe at the third space they join and form one vein. This one vein end up, ascend and end up into brachiocephalic. Into brachiocephalic vein. Okay. So again, those what we call them vena comitans surrounding each artery. Then at the third space they join each other and they form one vein is called internal thoracic vein, where it ends into corresponding brachiocephalic vein. And these veins drain the anterior intercostal veins. The anterior intercostal veins. Those are anterior veins. Okay. How about the posterior intercostal veins? Posterior intercostal veins drained through azygous system mainly. And the azygous system you have on the right side azygous vein, it means single, and in the left side you have two hemiazygous veins, superior or accessory and the inferior. Okay, let us see how this works. So here is the midline, the vertebral column. Vertebrae. You will see that we have azygous vein. This azygous vein start in the abdomen. The same for the inferior hemiazygos. How it start? It has different ways to start with. Either here is the inferior vena cava. Either coming from the inferior vena cava and ascend upward through aortic opening of diaphragm, aortic opening of diaphragm, okay, to the right side of thoracic duct. Usually you have thoracic duct ascending through the same opening, and the name tell you that the major structure come out through this opening is what? Is descending aorta. Descending aorta. So it's coming from the inferior vena cava, ascend up to the right side until it reach to the superior mediastinum, where it end into superior vena cava. This is superior vena cava. This is inferior vena cava. So basically, this guy, this azygous vein, is a communicating venous channel between inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. If there is obstruction in inferior vena cava, this may take over, and vice versa. If superior vena cava obstructed, this may take over. So azygous vein extend from inferior vena cava in the abdomen. We are talking about abdominal cavity, and end up in thoracic cavity into superior vena cava. It receives posterior intercostal veins from number 4 down to 11 plus the subcostal. How about 1 to 3? Superior vena cava is made by this one coming from left side, which is called left brachiocephalic vein, and this one coming from right side is called what? Right brachiocephalic vein, correct? So number 1 go directly to brachiocephalic. Number 2 and 3, they form superior intercostal vein, which is going to the arch of azygos. This is the arch of azygos. This is superior intercostal vein. Number 2, number 3. So again, if I ask you posterior intercostal veins, how they end? Number 1 go to brachiocephalic, to the right brachiocephalic. Number 2 and 3 join each other, they form superior intercostal vein, which end up into the arch of azygos vein. Number 4 down to 11 plus subcostal directly to the azygos vein. Okay, so this one is azygos vein. Okay, how about left side? Left posterior intercostal vein. In the left side, you have subcostal vein is going to be joined by another vein coming from the abdominal wall, is called the ascending lumbar vein, and this is left subcostal vein. Both of them, they form inferior hemiazygos. Inferior hemiazygos. Okay, ascend up until the level of 9 vertebra or 8 vertebra, then shift to the right side, cross the midline to end up into azygos vein. In its way up, receive posterior intercostal vein from number 9, 10, 11 plus subcostal. So this is the inferior hemiazygos, receiving posterior intercostal veins from 9 to 11 plus subcostal, and at the end of the day is going to end into the azygos vein. Cross the midline behind the esophagus. And behind the descending aorta. Okay, how about the rest up here? Superior hemiazygos or accessory hemiazygos is a continuation of number 4 down like this, then also cross the midline and they end up into the azygos. This is number 4, so posterior intercostal, and receive number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. Okay, those end up into the superior hemiazygos. How about first, second, third? First also go to where? To the left brachiocephalic. Second and third, they join each other, they form superior intercostal vein on the left side and end up into brachiocephalic. This is superior intercostal vein. So what is the difference between left superior intercostal vein and right superior intercostal vein? The right one end up into the arch of the arch of azygos vein. However, the left superior intercostal vein is going to end into brachiocephalic. Okay? Again, second, third join each other. They form superior intercostal vein and into left brachiocephalic. 4 to 8 superior hemazygos or accessory hemazygos. 9 to subcostal inferior hemazygos. Keep in mind another fact that this is the inferior vena cava, which gives start to azygos vein. Sometimes azygos vein starts the same way as the inferior hemazygos. And like subcostal and the ascending lumbar on the right side, they join each other. Subcostal with the ascending lumbar join each other and they form azygos. Or it comes directly from renal vein, right renal vein. The same, the inferior hemazygos might come from the inferior vena cava and from left renal vein. So there is different way for the azygos system to start down here, either from inferior vena cava or subcostal plus ascending lumbar or renal vein. How azygos vein enter thoracic cavity? Through this foramen in the diaphragm, this foramen called aortic foramen. What are structures traveling with it? Thoracic duct and descending aorta. Thoracic duct and descending aorta. Okay? What are other tributaries other than posterior intercostal veins drain into the azygos system? Keep in mind that azygos vein receive also esophageal veins, receive bronchial veins from the lung, What does this mean? This means that azygos system drain thoracic wall and thoracic organs except heart. Heart has its own venous drainage through what we call it coronary sinus. Okay? So at the end of the day, this azygos system end up into superior vena cava. And this explains why we say superior vena cava receive blood above diaphragm. How it receive blood above diaphragm? It means receive blood from upper extremity, from head and neck, from thorax. Upper extremity through subclavian, head and neck through internal jugular vein, thorax through azygos vein. Correct? So keep in mind that. So above diaphragm, you have subclavian vein and the internal jugular together. They drain into brachiocephalic, and the brachiocephalic together they form superior vena cava. If you go with simple drawing, this is internal jugular, subclavian, form brachiocephalic. Internal jugular, subclavian, form brachiocephalic. They end up into superior vena cava. And superior vena cava receive azygos. Receive azygos. So this internal jugular vein, this subclavian vein, brachiocephalic vein, internal jugular vein in the other side, subclavian vein in the other side, brachiocephalic vein in the right side. Here is superior vena cava. So this is representing head and neck, upper extremity, and azygos thoracic cavity, thorax. Okay. So this is a summary for blood supply of thoracic wall. Thank you.